A listener warning. Please be advised that this episode contains content that may be disturbing to some listeners, including descriptions of violence and self-harm. Listener discretion is advised.
Life upon the wicked stage ain't ever what a girl supposes.
I'm Jen.
I'm Ashley.
And I'm Olivia.
And we are, in fact, three different people.
This podcast focuses on true crime under the spotlight of arts and entertainment. So grab your beverage of choice and settle in.
Places, ladies.
Here's our episode.
Like,
she touched it.
I'm going to touch it. I touched it.
She touched it. She just...
The record button,
Hey,
I touched it.
thanks for
Oh,
warning
the
us,
oh, the
you know?
record button.
Yeah. She warned us, though,
Oh,
so that's good.
oh.
Well,
All I heard was, I'm going to touch it. You guys ready?
Yep. Yes.
listeners, we're coming at you off of a holiday weekend. We're recording this on a Monday afternoon because I just can't keep it together.
No, it's Memorial Day.
It's Memorial Day
so
weekend. Things were happening. Life was being lived.
Life was being lived. Well, since I didn't have any idea what today's episode was on.
I don't either. Rock asked me. I was like, I don't know.
I have no information. Yeah, I don't know anything,
Okay.
Jen. But what are the headlines?
June 16th, 1959, actress Phyllis Coates woke up around 4:30 a.m. to a very odd and jarring phone call. The person on the other end of the line was a woman named Tony Manix. She sounded very upset and cried out, "The boy is dead. He's been murdered." This kind of phone call would not have been out of the ordinary for Lois Lane, the character Coates played on TV, but not even an ace reporter like Lois could have imagined that Manix was referring to the death of George Reeves, the original Superman.
Wow.
So that's
Drama.
what we're talking about today. Right up
Starting
front.
with
There's so much
Yeah.
drama. We're
The
gonna-
boy.
The
She called him the boy?
boy.
That's
She
interesting.
did, and we will talk all about the
Oh.
reason she called him the boy.
Okay, because that sounded a little odd. Okay.
Yes, because to understand George Reeves' death, which was ruled a suicide, and I will say that right now,
Ruled a suicide.
ruled a suicide, but as we know, sometimes that's not the case, and there's a lot of controversy surrounding it. You have to know about his life and his career before you get to his death. So we'll talk a little about that, and I have a couple extra little things to throw in at the end if there's time. If there isn't, you have to join our Patreon and listen to them there.
That's where all the best content is, in my opinion. All of
I
our
agree.
unhinged tirades.
Unleashed. We are Unleashed Floozies is on.
That's what it should be
Unleashed.
called.
Floozies Unleashed.
That's our
Floozies
after midnight.
Unleashed.
Rebranding our Patreon.
Yeah.
This is Floozies Unleashed is our midnight
Unleashed.
frolic.
It's our
Is
midnight
yeah.
frolic. We're going to show our ankles. Watch out.
You want a glass floor where you can look up and that's it.
All
I
right.
love it.
Are you ladies ready?
I am ready.
I'm ready.
Okay.
I'm so fresh.
So we'll start with George's early life. He was born on January 5th, 1914, as George Kiefer Brewer in Iowa. He was the son of Donald Carl Brewer and Helen Brewer. He was born 5 months into their marriage. Ooh, scandal.
Oh,
right
so
from
as
the
my
start.
grandmother always said, the first baby can come at any time. The rest take 9 months.
Banging in the corn crib.
Banging in the
Yep.
cornfields. The couple separated soon after Reeves's birth, and reportedly he never saw his father again, his birth father.
Aw.
Later, they moved to California to stay with his mother's sister. We're not going to get into Helen, his mother, a lot. We could do a whole podcast on her and probably the mommy issues he had because she was
good.
crazy. But we're going to touch on it a little bit.
Okay.
In 1920, she met and married Frank Joseph Basello. And in 1927, when George was 13 years old, Frank Basello adopted him, and George took his stepfather's name, becoming George Basello. So
Okay.
that was his name for most of his life. That marriage lasted about 15 years, ending in divorce, with the couple separating while George was away visiting a relative. When he returned, his mother told him his stepfather had died by suicide, a gunshot wound to the head, which is
Wait.
important.
Oh my God.
Wait,
Yeah.
wait.
I don't. But again, what a move, and also like to I guess the assumption was like, well, we're never going to see him again, because what happens
Right.
if, like, you run into him, like, just, I don't know, in town, like
Yeah.
elsewhere, like in Iowa. It's like, wait,
I thought you were dead.
Yeah. Yeah. I
he's like,
think
no? Like,
it
why
had
would you
to
think
do with the
that?
fact that George was very close to his stepfather. Like, they got along really, really well. And
So
Mama
let's tell him
Helen
he
didn't
shot
like
himself
it.
in his head.
She wanted him on, like, her side because of, you know, the divorce, whatever.
There were
I
so
think
many,
that's why. Yeah.
There were so many other choices. Yeah, it's not even just like, oh, he died, or oh, he left, or like, no, killed himself. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to think of anything worse she could have told him. And I'm
Right.
No.
Right.
coming up empty.
No.
Nope.
No, not
Wow,
even like a
Helen.
car accident. Like,
Right.
he
Helen.
shot himself in the head. And years later, when George was well into his career at this point, he found out that his stepfather was still alive.
This was my follow-up question. Did this ever, like, obviously
yeah,
we know,
yeah,
so
yeah.
did this come home to roost? Oh,
But he didn't know for years.
Years and years and years and years. Yeah.
that's terrible.
Yeah. Yeah. He and his mom had a bit of a interesting, volatile kind of relationship.
Oh, Helen.
Oh,
Already, just.
So, yes, we're not going to talk about her a whole lot more because, like I said, I could have done
That's
a whole
all
deep
we need
dive
to
on
know,
that
really.
woman.
That's-
Right?
yeah, I think-
exactly.
I think that says it all right
Says
there.
it all right
That's-
there, right?
Sets
Yeah.
the bar. Yeah.
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 Helen, all right.
So George was actually an amateur boxer for a while, and he really enjoyed it. He liked boxing. He also was acting, so he was doing both of those things. But his mother wanted him to be an actor, so she was afraid he was going to hurt his face because he had a pretty little face, and he did. So she allegedly paid a retired boxer to fight her son and tell him like he didn't have the chops, so he'd give up boxing and focus on acting. And he did. And he
I
stopped
can't.
boxing.
This
Yep.
woman needs to be
This-
stopped.
Yeah, she
my
needs to be stopped.
God.
Thankfully, death did stop her because she was born a long time ago.
Not
but
soon enough.
Not
but-
soon enough.
Wow. So she just manipulated the hell out of his life and his reality.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely insane. So that's all for Helen until much later. But there she is.
So
Just
we're
a-
There's a wow.
Yeah,
wow.
it's like
a whole
rough
podcast on her. So Reeves studied acting at the Pasadena Playhouse, which is a huge. Everybody studied acting at the Pasadena Playhouse.
That's cool.
While he was there, he met his future wife, Eleanora Needles. They married in 1940. Reeves's film career began in 1939 when he was cast as Stuart Tarleton, one of Scarlett O'Hara's suitors in Gone with the Wind. It was a minor role, but he was in the film's opening scene as well as the barbecue at 12 Oaks.
I remember this because he's one of the redheaded
The redheads.
twins who were not in fact twins, but
Correct. But they
Yes,
did
and
have to dye their hair red because his hair is dark brown.
And they, spoiler alert, for Gone with the Wind, they died in the Battle of Gettysburg, and she
very
was
sad.
the Tarleton
Tarleton
brothers,
twins.
both of them, yeah,
Both of them gone.
both of them red.
Yeah. Yep. I know. And that's my
Excellent.
first introduction to George Reeves because my mom watched Gone with the Wind all the time. All the time. After Gone with the Wind was filmed, Reeves returned to the Pasadena Playhouse and was given the lead role in the play Pancho. This is important because this part directly led him to being contracted to Warner Brothers. There was a talent scout in the audience. They saw him and they said, sign that man. At Warner Brothers, they changed his last name to Reeves. And he became George Reeves. And his Gone with the Wind title credit or screen credit does reflect this. So this is a little interesting tidbit. Between the start of production of Gone with the Wind and its release a year later, several films on his Warner Brothers contract were made and released. So Gone with the Wind was his first film role, but his 5th film release.
That's
of the way it
funny.
works.
Just the timing.
Just the timing. Yeah.
So they're able to sneak his name change into the credits.
Yeah.
That's
Because there was
funny.
time. Yeah. Yeah. He
love it.
starred in a number of B pictures at Warner Brothers with people like former President Ronald Reagan and James Cagney. But these roles did little to advance his career. So he was released from his Warner Brothers contract, and he then signed with 20th Century Fox, but was released from that after just a handful of films. In 1942, he was cast as Lieutenant John Summers opposite Claudette Colbert in So Proudly We Hail, a war drama for Paramount Pictures. Paramount Pictures then signed Reeves up for 2 films a year.
All right.
It was a hit. He was a hit. He had a little momentum. But Reeves was so inspired by So Proudly We Hail, he put his budding acting career on hold and enlisted in the Army in 1943 because it was World War II and wanted to go off and fight. He was actually a little bummed because he did want to fight. Like, he wanted to do good. And he was assigned, because of his Hollywood connections, to the Army Air Force's first motion picture unit where he made training films. So he was kind of bummed because he was like, like, what did I come here for? Like, could have done this at home. Yeah.
Wow.
Huh.
But,
Interesting.
Yeah. He was discharged at the war's end in 1945, and he returned to Hollywood. The director of So Proudly We Hail, Mark Sandrich, said that he had great plans for George Reeves once the war was over. He was like ready to make this kid a star. But Mark Sandrich died before anything could come of his promise.
Oh, what a bummer.
Yeah. So more and more time passed between acting jobs, and they were paying less and less. In 1950, he and Eleonora Needles, his wife, divorced when someone more financially secure swept her off her feet. Heartbroken, George refused to ever speak of her again.
She who must not be named.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we all have one of those. But yeah. So she...
Don't we, though?
Don't we, though? George was heartbroken.
Oh.
Aw, George. Georgie.
By 1951, Reeves was reduced to walk-on parts in studio B-movies and digging cesspools. If you're not sure what a cesspool is, it is a
Not good.
septic tanks.
Yeah, not good.
That was
Oh
his
my
survival
God.
job.
Dug cesspools?
Somebody came to his house to dig a cesspool, and he was like, how much are you charging? And they said $100. And he goes, I can do it. And he did it himself. And then he started charging and started digging cesspools for people because you
I
can make
feel
$100 a day.
But the quintessential, like, being a ditch digger is actually better because ditches are, like, multi-purpose and usually just for, like, rainwater runoff. A cesspool implies
cesspool
that it's
digger.
for waste.
Yeah.
Like, what
Yeah.
a juxtaposition, though. It's like
Yeah.
movie star cesspool. Like,
Yeah.
what a-
Cesspool.
Yeah.
You could say Hollywood is a cesspool, and he's like, nay, I beg to
Nay.
differ. I've been in an actual cesspool.
Let me tell
and
you,
it's
would you
not-
like to come help me? Yeah. But at the time, there was a recession, so the studios were ditching even their big name stars to save money. So he was really, it was a bad time. So this poor man who was groomed for stardom in the early 40s when it was like very prosperous, and he really had something going for him until the war, you know, had every reason to believe he was now in the wrong line of business.
Oof.
And that's also, like, he's been in this line of work now for 10 years. And, you know, Jen, you're a professional actor, and I think you have had a degree of success, I will say, by many standards. You are you're a working
I'm a
actress.
working
This is your
actor.
career. But imagine you wanted to be a working actor, and just for a decade, all you heard was no, 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 to the point where it was going so poorly. It was like, I guess I'll shovel this shit
Oh, big
because
success.
no
Literal.
one
Yeah.
will have me. Like,
Yeah.
So would you call
As an
that his?
actor.
Would you call that his number 2 plan?
Yeah, I would. Well done. Well done. Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, I will
Slow
say,
clap.
like,
Thank you.
2 years ago, I didn't book a damn thing all year. And I was lucky because I have my hosting job.
Yeah.
So I'm still at least on camera. But I went a whole year and didn't book a thing.
But that was hard for you. Like,
But
that
it
took an
was
emotional
really
toll.
hard.
1
It
year.
sucks. You
Yeah.
know, and there are other years where you book one thing, and then there's a year where you book 4 and you're a lead in
Right.
3 movies. Like, and it's great. But you never know.
It's
The showbiz.
A professional actor is truly, it's a business of rejection, and it is feast or famine, exactly
Yep.
what you're
Yeah.
saying, Jen.
Yep.
But famine for 10 years,
That's a
that's a lot.
Yeah,
that's
it's a
a
lot
maybe I
No.
should change. It's
Correct.
interesting that he didn't change careers.
He didn't. But I think at this point he was about ready to. But then
Yeah.
he met Tony Manix, who took him under her wing, and everything started to change for him. So Tony Manix, if you remember, was the woman at the very beginning who called Phyllis Coates to say the boy is dead.
The boy is dead.
The boy. Yeah, the boy. Say more
The
about
boy.
that.
I'm interested in hearing why that. I know you're going to get to it.
Is she
Why the
Norma
boy?
Desmond? Is it
Well,
is it mad about the boy?
A little bit. Like,
The
kinda.
boy is dead.
Any laws against burying him in the garden? Sorry.
we're going to get into Tony, and you're going to be like, oh, well, she kind of is. So Tony Manix was the wife of Metro Goldwyn Mayer general manager and fixer Eddie Manix. Now, if you remember, ladies, floozies, and anyone listening, when we talked about the Black Dahlia, Elizabeth Short, we
Yes.
talked about fixers.
The Fixers. The
Fixers
movie
were
studio
alive
Fixers.
and well in
Yep.
Hollywood. Tony Manix was a dark-haired, sensuous, fun-loving, adventurous, and well-endowed. I thought that was hilarious, so I kept it in.
Again, all of us.
Well-endowed and easy on the eyes,
Easy on the
baby.
eyes.
We're all a Tony Manix.
We're all Tony Manix. Tony,
Dark-haired and sensual.
I know.
Sensual.
Tony was a former Ziegfeld girl.
Oh.
Uh-huh.
All
Very
the
cool.
names this season.
I know. She met Eddie Manix when she had a key role in the Great Ziegfeld movie in 1936. So, for many years, she was content to just be squired around Hollywood on Eddie's arm as his trophy wife. And she was kind of, drawn to his money, his power. This is why she called George Reeves the boy. She was 8 years older than George.
Wait. Okay. Just
So
8 years.
he's a boy to her.
8 years, though, does not a
that's not that
cougar
much.
make. I'm sorry.
No.
It's
No, but she's also married. He's literally her boy
boy.
toy.
okay.
Wait, were they sleeping together?
Yes. George and Tony had a torrid long-term relationship, which was fully known to Eddie Manix
Oh.
because
Why
he had a
did he-
mistress of his own.
I was just
Okay.
going to ask, why did he allow it? But there you
Well,
have it. It's
There are a couple things. One, the casting couch was alive and well in Eddie's office, so he
Sure.
had
Okay.
more than
Okay.
one.
He had
but he
options,
had
yeah.
a long-term mistress as well. They very much had an open relationship, so
Oh.
much so that they would go out on double dates. George and Tony
No.
and Eddie and his mistress. It is said that George would go on vacation with the Manixes. Eddie and Tony were married. It was like a marriage of convenience. I think they stayed married because
it's a business
they liked the
relationship.
Business
power.
deal. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, that's what it sounded like to me.
We share some assets.
Eddie
and-
was
Right.
an asshole, but yes. Yeah.
But as
get
a
into
it.
lady, especially in Hollywood, and I don't know how old she is, but if she has already sort of seen herself as I am this older woman.
Over 35.
You're over 35.
Yeah.
Back
your-
then, too, in Hollywood.
Yeah, it's
that's-
like your value is then decreasing. It's what are you going to play the grandmother? What are you, Aunt
Babe,
Em?
District
yeah.
Attorney, driving Miss Daisy.
Exactly.
Correct.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. So it's well, what else are you going to do as far as your lifestyle, your income? It's stay married to this guy, and he's letting you have
Yeah.
your fun. I mean, knock yourself
Exactly.
out. If that's working for you,
Exactly. It doesn't
you
bother
do you,
her
girl.
that she was in her 40s when they first started dating.
Okay. It's just a young
young-
woman.
Yeah. Tony was extremely possessive, quick to jealousy, and protective of the younger man, George, who is not as savvy in the ways of Tinseltown as she was.
So this really is Norma Desmond.
It very much is, and he returned her favors in kind. So he's giving her the love she wasn't getting from her much older husband, because Eddie was much older than her.
Oh, okay.
But Tony took care of George. Tony bought George Reeves expensive gifts, including a house
Okay.
in Benedict Canyon,
So she was a sugar mama.
a car.
Casual.
Oh yeah, and she took care of everything, including his career. She really kind of helped him get in the door because she knew people, because her husband knew people.
I mean, that's how the business kind of goes too.
It's who
even
you
if
know.
it's not you're in a a quid pro quo like this,
Yeah.
but so much of entertainment in particular, it's well, who do you know? I mean, I don't know. I'm also
Yep. So in 1951, in June of 1951, Reeves was offered the role of Superman in a new television series titled Adventures of Superman. He was initially reluctant to take the role because, like many actors of his time, he considered television unimportant and believed very few would see his work because not every home had a television. It was brand new. There were 3 channels. Also, this is a kids show. He's a serious
it was
actor.
looked at as a kids show?
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Adventures of Superman is a kids show. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
But beyond that, the half-hour shows were shot on tight schedules. So they made at least 2 shows every 6 days.
Whoa.
That's insane.
That's a lot. Wow,
Yeah.
wow.
The Adventures of Superman went on the air the following year, so 1952. And George Reeves was amazed at how quickly he became a national celebrity. Now, the term overnight success gets thrown about.
Yeah.
It
Sure.
wasn't obviously an overnight success, but people knew who he was overnight.
Like overnight.
Finally. Yeah.
Finally.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, finally. Like finally an overnight success.
He's like,
Finally
I
an
go
overnight
with the
success.
wind.
Yes.
Yeah,
I know.
With the wind.
He was the lead in So Proudly We Hail, and then he went to save the country, but wasn't allowed. He had to make movies instead. So here's some interesting things about the Superman series, and they caused some turmoil with George. So the Superman cast had restrictive contracts preventing them from taking other work that might interfere with the series. So all of them had what was called a 30-day clause, which meant that the producers could demand their exclusive services for a new season on 4 weeks' notice.
Holy
So that meant you couldn't have any long-term work on major films with long schedules or any other series that might lead to a lengthy run or anything like that, or any theater work that would have a lengthy run. You literally were kind of sitting
were
around
locked in.
waiting,
Just
Yeah.
waiting for the phone to ring.
and you were only getting paid for the weeks you were working.
Huh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
That feels.
Yeah.
But
Again,
I feel like that's probably not uncommon back then, right?
No,
like
and
that's
TV was
like
new.
studios owned people. They
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before, he was famous, but he wasn't rich.
It still feels a little predatory though, because it's
Oh,
like
yeah.
you have to be available to us, but we're not going to pay you unless
Well,
we use you.
listen.
Like that's
right.
It hasn't changed all that much. You know, you get an audition and you get like a right to first refusal, and you're on hold for like a month
Right.
waiting, and then they
Yeah.
let you go, or
Yeah.
you just it sucks.
I've
You
seen
don't
that happen
know-
to you.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
don't know what your schedule's going to be at times. There needs to be a new way.
yeah
to do it.
As a sometime producer, producers do better.
Do better.
It's
It's doable. Like, do better.
like have a backup, have a plan B,
Right.
but don't hold people's livelihood hostage. Like if you want their
Yes.
time, you need to pay them for it.
You
Like,
need to pay
that's
them for
it.
their time, and also just like treat people like human beings.
What a concept!
What a concept,
What
right?
a concept!
What a concept. Reeves was, however, able to leverage his new role as Superman and earn additional income by making personal appearances. And he really
Cute.
did good things. Like, he would go to hospitals and see sick kids as Superman. He would help charities as Superman. Yeah. So he really did do that. And he took his role as Superman really seriously. But
That's
he
really
also had to be careful. Much like Harry Houdini, when people saw Superman, they were like, "Oh, well, he's invulnerable. He's the strongest man alive.
You are
so
Superman."
I'm gonna."
They'd
I'm
want to
gonna
like punch
hit
him,
you. I'm gonna
kick him.
There's a story that a child pointed a loaded gun at him, and he talked the kid down and didn't say that he wasn't Superman. He said,
Oh.
now listen. It's not going to hurt me, but it could ricochet off of me and hurt somebody else. So I need you to give me the gun.
Oh my God.
Now, that's like a rumored story, so I don't know if it happened, but
Okay,
he
okay,
definitely did get
okay.
hit.
Still.
And that story is very popular, so it could have happened. But he didn't give up the fact that he was Superman. He was like, it's just going to hurt somebody else, so give
It's
me
like
the gun.
those jerks at the theme parks who like go
Yes.
run up and kick Winnie the Pooh in the knee or something.
I've gotten groped as the fountain more times than I want to talk about.
Jesus.
His affection for his young fans was so great that he took his role model status extremely seriously. So he was a smoker.
That's sweet.
And he was a drinker. But he would not drink or smoke in public because he was Superman. And he didn't want
Aw.
those kids to see it. And I thought that was really
So the
yes.
whole
I think George Reeves really took it seriously when he realized how much the kids loved him because he
Yeah.
was like, okay, well, they need me. Like, they need me to be Superman. But still, as a creative, if I was playing a superhero on a TV show, I would love it. Let's say I was playing Wonder Woman. Because
Wonder Woman. I know. Here we go. This is Jen's.
Like,
this is Jen's Roman Empire.
Right. Let's say I was. I'd still probably be pretty disappointed that I wasn't doing quote unquote serious acting.
Okay. Yeah.
Sure.
That makes sense.
I wasn't getting to do Shakespeare. I wasn't getting to do, Sophie's Choice, right?
Yeah. Especially when that is your passion.
Correct. And this is a way to make money. It's like right now, I love my hosting jobs. They're wonderful. I'm so grateful. I'm so fortunate. That's not what I set out to do.
Right.
If I had the choice, I'd be making movies all the time. That's what I would be doing,
Yep.
So, he also, to keep his role model status and his image as Superman squeaky clean, kept his private life discreet when making official appearances, especially because his relationship was with a married woman.
Right. Good old Tony.
So she never came with him to official Superman appearances or anything like that. Yeah. But other than official appearances, Tony and Reeves were very public with their arrangement. But the press, out of respect and the clout that Eddie Manix had, never exposed the relationship outside of the industry. So the public didn't know that they were having this long-term
But the people in the
affair.
industry knew.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That I don't know that would especially in our era of social media and just being in a surveillance state where it's there's just cameras everywhere.
Agreed. Yeah.
You could never do that today where
Nope.
it's okay,
Nope.
the insiders know, but Joe Q public is totally in the dark.
Right.
I think it's virtually impossible now.
Nope. Now they have drones flying over their backyards
Yeah, they
to
would.
catch what
Absolutely.
they're doing. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Between the first and second seasons of Superman, George got sporadic acting assignments in one-shot TV anthology programs and 2 feature films. But by the time the series was airing nationwide, he found himself so closely associated with the characters of Superman and Clark Kent that it was difficult for him to book roles, which is what the Superman curse is all about. And many, many, many people that have played Superman have dealt with the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah. In 1953, for example, Reeves played a minor character, Sergeant Malin Stark, in From Here to Eternity. Very famous film. It won the Academy Award for Best Picture, so Reeves actually has the distinction of being in 2 movies that won Best Picture, because he was in Gone with the Wind as well.
Yeah.
But his role was cut drastically because when they showed the film to test audiences and he came on the screen, everybody kept yelling, "Look, it's Superman!"
Oh.
So the studios were like,
Yeah.
gotta cut his stuff down.
It's like how being Norman Bates ruined Anthony Perkins' career.
Yep.
Yeah.
They're like, that boy killed his
It's
mother.
the guy from Psycho. Yeah.
He's like,
yeah.
I was a matinee idol until 4 seconds ago.
Yeah.
There's a Psycho tie-in in a little bit, by the way, Ashley. You're gonna be really excited about it. Yep.
Anthony.
So George Reeves was living not a double life, but he had his private life and then he had his public persona as Superman.
Yes.
But unfortunately, like Anthony Perkins, he was having a hard time being seen as anything but Superman.
As anything but Superman. And after 2 seasons, Reeves decided not to renew his contract and left the show. After 2 seasons.
2 seasons?
That was fast.
Well,
Wait.
he was frustrated with his low salary, the one-dimensional nature of his character, and how associating himself with Superman had kind of ruined his credibility as a dramatic actor. At 40 years old, he was also feeling uncomfortable playing such an intensely physical role because he did all his own stunts. There weren't stuntmen for him.
yeah.
He's jumping out windows.
He's
on
like,
the
these
mats and,
knees,
like,
kids.
yeah.
These knees are not going to
So
be
it's
able to.
My hip flexors hurt. Yeah.
Also, random note, his costume wasn't spandex because spandex wasn't a thing yet. It was wool.
Oh,
Ugh.
shit. I
so
knew
you know.
spandex wasn't a
Yeah.
thing, but wool.
Yeah.
That's rough.
Yeah.
That's
He's like, you know what's faster than a speeding bullet? My arthritis.
Yeah.
That's.
Yeah. It was tough for him. So,
basically just wearing a big sock.
yeah.
Just a
Yeah.
big,
Can you
Yeah, a
imagine?
big sock.
Yeah.
Ugh, yuck.
Eager to jumpstart his failing career, Reeves established his own production company and conceived a TV adventure series called Port of Entry, and he even wrote the pilot script himself. But
Oh, George. Good for you,
know.
buddy.
He was never able to gain financing for port of entry, and the show was never made.
Oh.
The producers of Superman, unable to find a suitable replacement, lured him back to the show with a major salary increase.
There we go.
At least they threw some money at him. My God.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
He was reportedly making $5,000 a week, which in today's money is about $59,000 a week.
Much better.
Before or after?
After.
Okay, that was the okay.
That was
Yeah,
the huge pay jump. $59,000 a week, but only while the show was in production. So about 8 weeks a year.
But even so, I was just gonna say, even if that's 3 weeks, that's still $150,000 in
He's doing
today's
good. Like, he's
money.
doing fine.
Yeah.
That's
He's not
more
making Clark
than
Gable money, but he's
Right.
making good money.
I'm just thinking how like Friends made like a million and a half
per
each
show.
an episode or
He's-
something. Yeah.
This is better than cesspool money.
It's better than cesspool money. It's better than
Olivia
$100 a
almost did a-
cesspool.
I almost spit.
Well
my
done.
water.
She tries to do that
Well,
to you
it's-
all the time. So
Better than the cesspool.
Retribution.
That's true.
A near spit take. Yeah.
yeah. So he appeared as Superman on I Love Lucy, which is one of my very favorite episodes. It's episode number
That's
166, Lucy and Superman, in
So-
1957.
Was the episode? Did he appear as the man playing Superman,
No.
or is it like really Superman?
Okay. So in the episode, Ricky, for little Ricky's birthday, gets
Yeah.
George Reeves to come to the party as Superman. Something happens and they're not sure if he's going to be able to show up. So Lucy decides to dress up as Superman.
That's right.
Because she doesn't want her son to be disappointed. And she gets like stuck out on the ledge of their apartment. And George Reeves, Superman,
Comes and saves her.
flies, comes and saves her. And
Very
it's like
cute.
raining outside. There's a pigeon that lands on her head. It's one of my very favorite episodes. And there's a great picture of her in the drive. We can put it on social where she's looking at him. And it's just, she's like so in love with George Reeves. And who wouldn't be? He was a good looking
Who
guy.
wouldn't be? And what a network TV cameo.
Yeah.
Again, talking about how it's like, okay, there's like 3 channels, like 3 stations.
Yeah.
And then to have like, okay, and I have to assume maybe this was one of like the first or certainly early like cameo or like crossover. Where
Right,
it's
the
like,
TV crossovers.
yeah.
His good friend Bill Walsh, who was a producer at Walt Disney Studios, gave George a prominent role in Westward Ho! The Wagons in 1956.
Oh.
In which Reeves wore a beard and a mustache so he couldn't be recognized.
He's like, please.
Yeah.
To like wear a disguise so they don't
Basically,
see that it's
my
him.
talent.
Yeah.
And people weren't like, Superman.
Oh.
Yeah. And Westward Ho! The Wagons would be his final film appearance in 1956.
Wow.
So back to his personal life, because here's the thing. It's all interwoven. In late 1959, Tony's fear that she might eventually lose the most eligible bachelor in Hollywood came to light. It finally happened. George Reeves met a woman named Leonora Lemon in New York City.
Who are these women?
Wait a minute.
They sound
Yeah.
fake.
Yeah,
know,
it's
right?
like it's like Lois Lane and Leonora Lemon.
I know 2 LLs,
and
right?
Eleanor Needles. Like, what is going on?
Names, I'm telling you. George had to
This
change
is-
his, but these women.
This is from the Superman comics.
I
Like, are
know.
you kidding?
I know.
These are like, I get wrong franchise, but it's like, these are like Marvel characters.
They
Like,
are.
these comic
Yeah,
No, I
yeah.
know.
Leonora Lemon. It was like,
Leonora
sure, honey.
Lemon.
Like,
Yeah. So little is known about Leonora's background. She was a member of the so-called Cafe Society. They were publicity hounds who wanted to be seen and photographed and written up in the society and gossip columns. That's what the Cafe Society was, and that's what she did. She didn't
like
have a
an
job. She didn't do anything. She wanted, and you can look at pictures. There are pictures of Leonora in the drive as well. She doesn't
need
look
to
like a
find
very
this woman.
pleasant person.
No, she has a
Oh,
like
yeah.
Madame Leonora. I think is
Yeah.
kind of the direction I would go.
Yeah.
She has crazy eyes. I'm sorry.
She
Yeah.
really does.
She's.
So
I can see from here. Even this woman
Yeah.
is dead, but from the grave, I can tell she was nuts.
she, yeah,
And
right.
the way she's, listeners will post this, but
Yeah.
she is holding his
Holding him.
hand in like a
In a death
grip.
grip.
Yes, like she's like, he is mine.
I have Superman.
Yeah. And
Oh,
Tony
no.
was lovely. Like Tony in the movie Hollywoodland, which is very much about this, is played by Diane Lane. I mean, and that's kind of Tony's very
Oh.
like Beautiful. So watch that movie. It's very good. Ben Affleck is amazing as George Reeves. He's really, really, really good.
Hollywoodland. Okay. I haven't watched
Leonora
that one.
Lemon is scaring me,
Yeah.
whereas I feel like Tony
Leonora
is...
Lemon scares me too, honestly. Yeah. So she and George became involved, and once that happened, she proved to be as possessive, protective, and jealous as Tony, if not more so.
The hand grip.
The hand grip. Yeah.
We're going to zoom in on it.
Zoom in.
I love you so much.
But it's also, it's like the glazed look, and that's like don't ever leave me.
And he's smiling. Like, he has such a genuine, like, smile
He has
on
no
his
idea.
face.
Oh, he has no
And
idea.
she is just not.
Yeah.
I mean, her face, it's just, anyway.
It's
Nonetheless, Reeves apparently loved her, and he broke off his relationship with Tony.
I mean,
Leonora, very soon after, moved into the Benedict Canyon house that Tony had bought for George. It's George's house, but Tony bought it. So it's a little messy. It wasn't a big house. It was very modest, like Cape Cod house, but it was his, but Tony bought it for him. So, and she lived there. Tony, by the way, lived there with him a lot. Like they played house, kind of. I mean, she was married to Eddie, but she kind of lived there.
but she's like, I'm gonna stay here this week, kind of thing, kind of camping out.
Yeah.
Ooh, interesting.
So Tony was absolutely heartbroken. She sequestered herself at home. She cried for weeks, and apparently, allegedly, phoned George up to 20 times a day.
Whoa.
Would
Tony.
breathe
We
on
need
the
a
other end of the
Tony.
line and then hang up.
Tony girl. Oh. Okay.
Tony,
so
honey, no.
the whole class.
We've got Norma Desmond on one hand, and then we also have Glenn Close, a la Fatal Attraction.
On the other hand,
There's a lot.
she's a
happening
very
here.
versatile performer, you know? Yeah.
George, you in danger, girl.
You in danger. Well, yes,
Listen,
he is.
he doesn't have a good judge of female character at this
I
point.
was also
so.
Also, like, I mean, not to victim shame, but George, how are you choosing these women, my dude?
know.
Because it's
I know.
not
He's like,
great.
do I feel slightly unsafe and
Yes.
I can't trust them? Perfect. That's
Sign
what I'm
me up.
used to.
Move in. Thanks.
Well, I'll
I'm
say,
a little bit in danger. Yes, that's what I know.
and going backwards, maybe like mommy issues ? Because he's like, well, my mom was insane.
Correct.
So it's like, this is what I'm
and
familiar with.
overbearing and yeah.
Yep.
Women who love me, I'll have crazy eyes.
Exactly. Oh my God.
If she calls me less than 20 times a day, it's not love.
It's not
I
love.
don't think she loves me.
It's not love. 19 times? How dare you? It's not love.
God.
Lemon, on the other hand, was upset that George couldn't keep up the lavish lifestyle in which Tony had provided him. George was famous, extremely famous, but he was not rich. And he did complain to his friends about financial trouble. So I think he tried to keep up the lavish lifestyle and couldn't. Because of all of this, you know, the financial trouble and the fact that, you know, Lemon is unhappy and he has no prospects of new roles coming his way because he's stuck in this typecast of Superman.
And he's 40.
And
oh,
he's 40.
No.
He's on death's door.
The boy who's 40. Sorry.
But Superman was still very popular and they wanted to do another season. So they lured him in. He signed
So this is
again.
now season, what, 4? 5?
6.
6. Okay.
I believe
All
it's
right.
season 6.
Okay.
And they were going to give him another pay bump. And they were going to allow him to direct. And he was excited about that.
Oh,
He had directed
okay.
a few episodes before, but they were going to allow him to direct like a lot this time. So he signed on for 26
Nice.
episodes that were meant to go in production. So by mid-1959, contracts were signed, costumes were refitted, and the writers were assigned. So it was
The
happening.
wool was cut and ready
Wool
to
was
slip
cut and
into.
Ready to go. He's ready to go. Apparently, there are some conflicting reports, and we will get into those. Lemon and Reeves were reportedly set to wed on June 19th, 1959. It was only 6 months into their relationship.
I was going to say, this feels fast considering how long he breaks up with Tony. And then
After like
he's
10 years. They were together for like a decade, basically.
Yes.
Yeah. It's reported that that was the case, but some people say that it wasn't. I did some digging. I didn't see any report of it anywhere. And I kind of feel like it would have been reported that George Reeves is getting married.
So there's stories that they were, but it's not, it's
Correct.
Unconfirmed.
And again, I couldn't find this either, but there was a report that there was a like tabloid that said that the wedding was off. So they were also said that like they had broken up. So there's some interesting stuff going on with Lemon and George. So we're going to get into it because now we are at...
Oh, Lemon.
Oh, Lemon. Hey friends, Jen here, and we hope you're enjoying this episode of Life Upon the Wicked Stage. Just a few quick reminders. If you're looking for any of the visuals that we've mentioned in this or any episode of the podcast, make sure to follow us on Instagram at Wicked Stage Pod or Facebook at Life Upon the Wicked Stage. If you want more, please join our Patreon by searching the Wicked Stage Podcast. There you'll find ad-free episodes, videos of our recordings, mini-sodes, behind-the-scenes content, giveaways, and so much more. And the most important side note, if you like the show, please give us a nice rating wherever you listen. It sounds silly, but it's still the best way to get the word out and support us in this crazy podcast world. Well, lights are blinking, intermission's over, so grab those snacks and another drink and enjoy the rest of the show. We are at June 15th, 1959.
Okay.
Reeves and Lemon went out on the town for dinner and drinks.
Like you do.
Like you do. And they did a lot. George was a drinker. In fact, some say he might have been a high-functioning alcoholic.
Oh, just not when he was in costume,
Just
I
not
guess,
when he
or
was in
as
costume.
Superman.
Yeah.
Okay.
Robert Condon, a house guest, stayed behind. Robert Condon was an author, and he was writing a book on Reeves, and he was staying at the Benedict Canyon house. The couple
like he was interviewing him, like a
like
biography.
he was staying there.
Okay.
Mhm. So the couple returned around 11 p.m. and at 12 a.m., we're now at June 16th, George went upstairs to go to sleep. He was like, I am tired. Good night. Lemon stayed downstairs with Condon. They were drinking, continued to drink because Lemon and George already were when they were out.
Blitzed.
Reports say that Lemon turned on the porch light, indicating that the house was open for visitors. Apparently, this is a thing that happened for them. Like, if the porch light was on and the neighbors saw it, they could just be like, hey, I'm here. Let's have a drink.
At 12 in the morning?
Girl, it's midnight.
I know.
I'm
But
exhausted
You're
by then.
middle-aged. What are you doing?
God, I go to bed at 10.
I know.
9
I
p.m.
fall asleep at like 9.
wind it
It's
down.
ridiculous. Yeah.
Like,
I know.
I
turn
turn
it back
on
on.
my outdoor lights as a deterrent for burglars because it's like I can see you on
Correct.
my ring cam.
Right.
Like that's why my
Correct.
lights are
Yeah,
on.
we have
Yes,
motion detector lights that go on that say
Yes.
stay away.
Yes, this was like 1950s code for come on by and party. If the
Because
light was
like
on.
I would remove all the outside lighting on my house, so there would be no question that I do not want you
I
to
don't
drop
want you
by
here.
under any circumstances
How dare you drop by?
after
ever.
dark for any reason.
Apparently it worked because two neighbors did swing by.
Okay.
William Bliss and Carol Van Ronkel. Now there
Stop
are rumors.
it. Bill Bliss, Carol Van Ronkel, and
Robert Condon,
Lenora
Lenora
Lemon
Lemon.
are hanging out at Superman's house.
They
This
are.
is
He's upstairs
ridiculous.
asleep, but yes.
This sounds fake.
I
This
know.
all
Doesn't-
sounds fake.
Jen, are you piloting a new screenplay right now? Is that what's happening? You're like
caught
pitching us
me.
character names. to try
Bill
to
Bliss
see.
and Leonora Lemon. Like, oh, sure, Jan. Like,
Yeah.
that's
Jan.
not.
Leonora Lemon, Liz Lemon's great-great-grandmother.
That's what I keep thinking. I keep wanting to call her Liz Lemon. That's not it.
So you have 4 people downstairs partying while the
Drinking.
owner of the house is like, I literally
I'm tired.
I
went to
want to
bed.
go to bed. Yes.
It's midnight. I'm sleeping.
Tired and I want to go home.
Yes. So there are rumors that Carol, who was a neighbor, was having
Tell her last name again.
Van Ronkel.
Carol Van Ronkel.
Rip Van Winkle.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
Rip Van Winkle and Carol Van Ronkel came over.
Carol reportedly was having an affair with Robert Condon,
Sure.
The author.
the author. So that's why she came over,
God.
to be like, oh, hey, whatever. But,
Sure.
but Bill
Okay.
Bliss who lived nearby.
No. He was a real happy kind of guy.
He was a real happy kind of. He was actually virtually a stranger in the house. He had never, stopped by for this porch light.
So they weren't together?
No.
Bill just chooses tonight
Bill
to rock
just
up.
chooses to rock up, and he's
porch-light
never
code.
done it before. Like, they barely know this guy.
What a move.
This will teach you, Bill.
Well, around 1 a.m., Reeves came down and said, "I'm in no mood for a party.
Get out of my house.
Yes, and.
Yeah. So he was visibly irritated and actually threatened to throw Bliss out because he didn't know this guy. He knew the others at least, but he's like, fuck
Van
this
Conkel
guy.
can stay. Bliss out.
Well, and if she was having an affair with the writer, maybe she was gonna stay.
But I cannot
Oh, like
imagine.
she'd stayed before.
Yeah.
Have some dignity. This is Superman's house. Like,
So after a few minutes, he actually apologized for his bad mood.
oh,
Nice guy.
Buddy,
And went back
buddy.
upstairs.
Just go to bed.
He's like, you know
Just
what?
go to
I'm
bed.
just going to go to bed. I'm so
You know what?
sorry. I shouldn't have lashed out. I'm tired. I'm going back to bed. So he goes upstairs.
Did they continue partying?
Yes.
I don't understand. All right, go ahead. Anyway,
Police
all right.
reports.
Lemon?
I know. Read the room. Well, she really should have. Police reports describe that Lemon and Condon, Bliss and Van Runkel, your favorite, our favorite.
This sounds fake, but go
Yeah,
on.
go ahead.
Listened.
Sorry.
The foursome listened as George Reeves climbed the stairs. Now, you can look in the drive. You can see the layout of the house. The living room was right under George's bedroom.
I love a diagram. Hold
Yeah.
on.
Wait a minute.
So
Yeah.
they could hear what was going on. So they said to the police, this is what the police report says, that Reeves climbed the stairs. Then they heard his bedside drawer slide open and then a single gunshot. So after that, after they hear the single gunshot, William Bliss runs upstairs and discovers George Reeves's body. I find it weird that the one guy
Who didn't know him?
who didn't know him is the one that
Right.
runs upstairs.
Yeah.
And also, assuming, we're looking at a diagram of the house,
Yeah.
it doesn't look like it's a terribly complex layout.
No.
But also, like, why you who have never been anywhere, like, past the front door
Did
before
you know
now,
where
like,
the room was?
Oh,
Yeah, like, you
how
have
did
the-
you know how to get upstairs?
the confidence to run upstairs.
Or
and
the
be like,
confidence,
I'll,
yeah.
I'll find him. Like,
You all stay here.
Yeah, I'll
what a
go.
weird.
Yeah,
that-
there
that's
was a gun. I'll go
and also
to a place I've never been
like,
before.
and also like the assumption of like also again like the confidence of what was that gunshot of like, is there someone in the house, like
Right.
an intruder
That's what I'm saying.
fired that?
Exactly.
Like I
I'm just
wouldn't
gonna
run
run
upstairs either way, like
Yeah.
even if I had been there before. It's like, what was that? I'd
Yeah.
be more tepid about just like
Okay.
bolting upstairs at the sound
This
of
is weird.
gunfire.
It is weird. Bliss runs upstairs and finds George naked on a blood-soaked bed with his
Wait, what?
feet still on the floor. Naked
I'm sorry.
on a blood-soaked bed with his feet on the floor.
Did he sleep naked? Like, was this a known thing? Some people do.
I know.
Did he?
Did he
But
come downstairs naked like
correct.
2 seconds ago?
We're gonna get into that. Correct.
You know what?
feel
I hope
that's
so. I hope so.
I know. We're gonna get
Like,
into that.
You want to party in my house at 1 a.m.? This is what you see. Right here.
Right.
This
So-
is
Yeah. So he's naked
Weird.
on the bed.
All right, keep going.
Covered in blood. His feet are on the floor.
Okay.
The invincible Superman is dead.
Aww.
When police arrive, the foursome downstairs just hanging out drinking
What?
very casually. Drinking.
Well, I mean, I can understand doing some shots. Like, oh my
Sure.
God. Like,
but no, they were like laughing and drinking.
wait, that's in the report? Like, they were laughing and drinking?
Oh no, I don't like that
Also-
at all.
The police weren't called until about 45 minutes after the gunshot. So this is how the police found him. Naked on a blood-soaked
Okay.
bed, his feet are on the
Okay.
floor. The shell casing from the gun was under his body. And a
So he shot himself in the bullet wound was in his head.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And I'll get to that. So the 9mm German lager was on the ground between his feet. There was
Okay.
blood spatter, and it traveled all the way up to the ceiling where the bullet was lodged.
Oh shit.
Oh, did he
also-
shoot himself from his mouth?
Well, no.
Or
it was
like-
his temple. It was his temple.
Oh, but at an angle like
Exactly.
this. Okay,
Well,
okay.
We're gonna get into it.
Yeah.
He also had a 0.27% blood alcohol content. But
That's pretty high.
it's
Ooh,
high,
boy,
but
that's high.
also not horribly high for George Reeves because, like I said earlier,
Was
they
it?
kind of think he was a functioning alcoholic.
Yeah, but that's more than 25% of your blood is alcohol.
is.
Like that's
But
pretty...
I don't think that has anything to do with anything. I just want to say it because it was in the police report.
Okay.
I don't think it has anything to do with anything.
He was
So-
Olivia. He was functional enough to come downstairs and say,
Yeah.
"Keep it down." So
Yeah. And they
He
had
could
just
walk,
been out
right? He
drinking.
could walk up and down the stairs. He didn't.
Yeah.
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 Huh.
So apparently, Jesus Christ, Leonora Lemon jokingly said he's going to kill himself moments before he actually did, quote unquote. She said when he walked back upstairs, he's going to shoot himself. When the drawer
What?
slid open, she said he's getting the gun out now and
No.
he's going to shoot himself.
She gave him a play-by-play of what was
Then-
happening.
Why?
That's what she said to the people downstairs. This is what the witnesses downstairs say.
Bill and
and Carol
Rip Van
Von
Winkle.
Runkle
And Rip-
and Robert Condon.
Bill.
Yes, say that she said. Then and apparently it was a thing because she told the LA Times later that she was only kidding. So apparently she did say it because she.
So
said
she admitted
was
that she
only
said
kidding.
it.
Yeah.
So 3 people witnessed her say this, and then she's like, "JK, I was
JK.
making a joke," but in fact, it seems like that's maybe what
That's maybe
happened.
what happened.
Question mark?
Correct.
What would she base that on?
What would she base that on, right? The coroners ruled it a suicide.
Sure.
And now we're going to get into why that probably isn't the fucking case. So, here are some of the shady findings. One,
Love a shady finding.
he's totally naked. As we were talking about before, either he would have had to come down the stairs naked because he literally went back up the stairs, opened the drawer, and shot himself. So they say.
Like it was within like seconds.
Yes, it wasn't like I'm now going to go take a shower and come back out on the. No, it was walk, sliding of the drawer, bang.
Let's
So
just
they say.
assume, for the sake of argument, let's
Yeah.
say he likes to sleep naked, but he put on a robe.
A robe.
Because I feel
A
like
robe.
we would have remarked on if he'd come downstairs like naked, like just like
Right.
just
Just, like,
sun's out,
everything's
buns
hanging
out,
out.
just here we are. And so let's assume he had on a robe. Why
Where's
would
the
you?
robe?
Well,
Well-
why would you like if your plan is like, okay, I'm gonna go upstairs and I'm in despair and I'm focused on this task of like, this is what I'm gonna like.
Yes.
Why the naked? Like, why take off the
Well-
robe? Like, why
well,
would you do this?
But
Like,
Yes.
was
that's
there a robe?
weird-
Was there a robe found?
No.
No,
Anything
because I could see that being a thing. Like a robe, you take it off, you're just like, you know what?
Nope.
Fuck this.
No.
But
No.
that's a weird choice. Like
Well,
I feel like
and-
you're like, why?
Yes.
For why? Like, for why would you?
It's a very uncommon occurrence in suicides to be
Yeah.
naked, unless you're in a
Yeah.
tub.
Okay. Right,
know?
right. Okay.
So, there
Fair.
were no
Okay.
powder burns on the head
On his
wound.
hand. Oh, on the
On the
head,
head
wound.
wound.
Because
Which
you
would
hold it point
imply-
blank.
Oh.
Yeah.
That
That
it was
the
farther
gun was
away.
held several inches from his head at the time it was fired. Pretty unusual for a suicide.
That's important. Yep.
Yeah.
That's important.
Reeves was discovered on the bed lying on his back. The single shell casing was found under his body. According to experts, self-inflicted gunshot wounds usually propel the victim forward and away from the expended bullet casing. If the gun was held upside down, the shell casing would go down. Why would he hold the gun upside down?
That'd
that
be weird
seems
and
weird.
awkward.
Yes.
Yeah.
The bullet went into his head an inch above his right ear and exited 1 3/4 inches above the left ear and then lodged in the ceiling. That means his head would have had to have been tilted in a very odd position. Exactly. His head would have had to have been like nearly, you're both doing it, nearly horizontal at the time of the firing. For that to be.
Only-
And the gun was being held upside down.
But also, I'll say then he ends up on his back. So just, I'm not a physicist, but physics, ladies and gentlemen,
Correct.
this is basic. So your listeners, I am tilting my head at a 90-degree angle so that if you're firing from below and the bullet is going towards the ceiling, but then somehow you fall backwards on your back, that makes
Seems like
absolutely
you would
no sense.
fall to
And
the
why
other
would
side.
the
Like,
shell, yes, and why would the shell casing be
Right.
under your body? It would
Like,
fall like on top of you.
Basic momentum.
Yeah,
so
he's physics.
But physics, no, this is basic.
Well,
this is very
yeah.
basic crime scene, and also very, like ballistics. That's what I
Yes.
want. But ballistics analysis.
I'm thinking,
But the police didn't.
wait, all right, 'cause
I
I
was
have a
just gonna say,
theory.
but so they put all this in a report, and they're like,
Yeah.
"Yep, nothing to see here."
Nothing
This
to
is
see
Oh,
here,
that
ladies and
happens so
gentlemen.
often, though. Doesn't
Yeah.
that happen so often with?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for this to be true, one would expect the gun to be found by his side, maybe, or in his hand, not on the floor between his feet.
Well,
And the bullet casing would likely be on the floor, not under his body. Anywhere,
Yeah, that's
honestly, than
weird.
under his body.
Yeah, literally, just about anywhere else would be acceptable
Yeah.
than under body
Yes.
that's weird.
So there are reports
on bed.
that before an autopsy could take place, the body had already been embalmed or washed. So traces of gunpowder that could have been on his hands and face were long gone. His hands weren't even tested for gunpowder residue, so it doesn't actually matter one way or the other. So the reasoning behind, he died by suicide was a stalled career. Okay, but he was already scheduled to shoot new episodes of Adventures of Superman.
And was going to direct.
He was going to direct. He received a hefty salary increase.
It was going relatively well for him.
Things actually seemed to be going relatively well. And some friends said that he seemed to have everything to live for.
And he was crazy or not, he was going to marry the lemon bitch. So, I mean.
Right. Right. We don't agree with it, but that's what the reports were.
But
Now,
personally and professionally, this is kind of arguably the best it's gone for him.
For him
in
in a
like,
long time.
10, 15 years. Like,
But we-
and it's like,
yes.
usually, again, you don't know what goes on behind closed doors, certainly from like,
Sure.
an outsider standpoint, but people at least like close to you or people that you are in immediate relationships with can speak to like, there was a pattern of depression
Right.
or,
Yeah. There's
people
no
who are-
reports of that he struggled with anything.
people
Jen?
who are functional and happy don't just
Other
out
than-
of left field one fine day are like, yep, this is it. Like
No,
that's
I mean,
Yeah.
other than, these
Alcoholism,
reports
maybe.
that he, alcoholism.
Yeah.
And the reports that like he, was, I'm in a monkey suit. I don't want to be Superman. But other than that, no.
but that's a far cry from like, yep,
I'm going to off myself.
And also, speaking as a working actor, because this is exactly how the business works,
sure.
if he was still doing it, I don't see
He stuck it out
why-
this far.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
He was
Yeah.
taking
And-
cesspools at one point in his life.
Right.
Yeah,
Why
Why
he
didn't
didn't
he
do
do
it
it
then.
if there was a low point, it was the cesspool year. Like that
Yeah.
was probably worse,
Yeah.
I would say, than this. And also,
He had
like,
gotten divorced. He had
Yeah.
nothing and was digging cesspools.
yeah.
So back to the reasoning behind this potential suicide. TCM, Turner Classic Movies, reports that rumors about his stagnant career may have been exaggerated. They suggest, apart from the upcoming season of Superman, Reeves was being considered for the role of Detective Milton Arbogast in Hitchcock's Psycho. Psycho! Yeah. I knew
There's
you'd
the
get
Anthony
excited.
Perkins
There it
tie-in.
is, right? How funny.
Or as some
Yeah.
say, Anthony Perkins.
Anthony Perkins.
I've
Yeah.
never heard, but that's okay.
So,
Arbogast is a great role too.
Yes.
Like he is
a
that's
great
major role.
and he would have been awesome in it. So they were considering him for that. Just 2 days after his death, on June 17th, he was to have returned to the boxing ring because he was something he loved and always missed with light heavyweight champion Archie Moore. The exhibition match was to be played on television so that viewers across the country could tune in to see Superman beat the champ. Reeves
Oh my
told reporters
God.
the Archie Moore fight will be the highlight of my life. If
Oh my
you
goodness.
Look on the drive,
There's
is
a
a
poster.
The poster. Yeah.
It was
It's
happening.
Times New Roman font. I'll let it slide. But oh my god,
So it was like 1959. So,
oh my god.
Yeah.
So,
so he was really excited to go box again.
And that was like the next day.
So, yes.
Wow.
He had all kinds of good things going on
Right.
in his life as
Yes.
far as just like
Wow.
again and no documented pattern of mental illness or like bipolar or depression or anything like that.
Yeah, and that being said, it was the 1950s. We didn't talk about it,
someone
especially
would have
with men.
said-
But
someone would have been like, oh,
I agree.
someone somewhere.
And
Tony would have said.
Tony would have said exactly.
Rather than like have I'll say the I don't want to say shame, but the stigma of suicide. Like if there was anything to soften that or to say
Yeah.
like, well, I feel like she, at bare minimum, who was in a relationship with him for like how many years? Like
Yeah,
would
almost
have
10. It was like 8 years. Yeah.
would have at least like
Right, been
pointed
like,
to
well,
that.
he actually had toyed with suicide before, or there had been an attempt,
or I was worried about him.
Yeah,
like anything.
yeah,
anything.
something.
So, and then of course he and Leonora Lemon were to be married 3 days later. So they said in Mexico. And apparently there were like traveler's checks. They were going to go to Spain.
He's gonna punch some people and then
He's
go
going to
get
punch some
married.
people and then go get married. Reeves's mother, Helen, here she comes. However, she thought
Okay.
it was premature to rule the death a suicide, and she didn't
Oh.
believe that her son would do that. And there was no note.
All right, Helen,
No
you did the
notes.
bare minimum.
Yeah.
Yeah, all
You
right.
asked
yeah,
some
all right.
questions
Yeah.
about this.
You're
shady
still
stuff.
garbage, but at least you kind of
Exactly.
stood up at the end.
So she retained attorney Jerry Geisler to petition for a reinvestigation of the case as a possible homicide. Right
Homicide,
away.
yeah.
Right. Good.
The findings of a second autopsy conducted at Geisler's request were the same as the first, except for a series of bruises of unknown origin around the head and the body. His trainer, who saw him earlier that day, didn't see
Yeah.
any bruises on him.
Huh.
Reeves's friend, Rory Calhoun, told a reporter, no one in Hollywood believed the suicide story.
Oh, interesting.
Huh.
Okay.
All right, so here we go. Some more theories. Accidentally or purposely shot by Leonora Lemon.
Yeah.
For why
So-
though?
She was known for her, quote, Vesuvian temper tantrums. Like she was literally thrown out of clubs for punching men in New York. So those crazy eyes are 100% accurate.
You know, are we
Yeah,
gonna like?
but she was upset that George
Vesuvian.
couldn't.
I need
Wait,
to
you
just
like that?
sit on that for a second.
Vesuvian.
I wouldn't mind being known as having a Vesuvian temper.
The autopsy photo.
Yes.
There is a bruise like
Right,
over
on
his
you're
his
right,
forehead,
on his
above
forehead.
his eye. Like he was punched by someone.
Or hit with
But
the
I
butt of
wonder-
a gun.
Something hit him
Yeah.
like here.
Yeah,
I
you're
wonder
right.
could
I
a
forgot about
bullet
that.
Like over his left
Going
eye.
through your brain.
No, it doesn't
no.
bruise that way.
It wouldn't like cause
No.
like a hematoma.
No, it does around the site, like around like there's like bruising.
Yeah, yeah.
Usually there's like the bruising and the stippling. It's around where the
Entrance.
wound enter and exit, but like there's not.
It
it's
wouldn't
also-
like blow his brain.
Well, the other thing that
Sorry,
can
it's
happen
kinda
is
gross, but
No, it's
but
true though.
It also depends on like if your body is falling and then your body is resting in a certain way. Sometimes like blood in other parts of your
Right,
body
it
will
pools.
then
Will pool, yeah.
and create bruising. But as we know, if he's laying on his back,
it would pull to the
it's going
back.
to pull to
yeah.
the back.
Yeah.
So to have a
Alright.
bruise on the
Bruise
front
there.
of you implies that like this happened before you died, so the bruising could start. Like something hit you in the head before you were killed, because
Yeah.
like post-mortem bruising is very much a thing, but certain conditions have to be present, and usually it is more common in people specifically who are elderly and medically fragile than people who are like younger and healthier, frankly.
Superman.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking off to the side because I'm googling photos
fine.
as well, and I
Yeah.
see the head.
Yeah, it's
Trauma.
there. You're right. I forgot about that one.
But
Yeah.
one clean bruise on the
On the
on the
head.
top of the head.
on the
It-
front of his head, like above, almost like just below his hairline, but above
Yeah,
his left
it actually looks like
eye.
there's a injury with a bruise around, but that would mean it would happen. There'd have to be a few minutes between that and
At
the
least.
death.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Very odd.
So, okay. So Leonora obviously was upset that George couldn't keep up the lavish lifestyle that Tony provided. He was again famous, but not rich. She and George were about to be wed, but George never publicly acknowledged this. Like I said, I couldn't find a public announcement anywhere. Doesn't mean there wasn't one, but I couldn't find it.
Did anyone but her ever say this?
I think there were a couple friends, but there was somebody on one of the 2020s that I watched said that they think he was going through a midlife crisis and that he didn't want to commit to her, and she was mad about it.
So
They didn't think that he was actually getting married. That was a story that was made up.
So she has the motive. That would be motive for her to maybe, but
she has crazy eyes.
She has crazy eyes.
She does have crazy eyes, but they weren't married, so it's not like she was going to get any money.
Well, yeah,
married,
exactly.
Right?
Nothing but vengeance.
And his will left everything to Tony, but of course it did because everything was Tony's.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
So
I'll
it's
just
kind of like
I'll take that back. Yeah.
He's like, you can have it.
There
Okay.
was a report in April in a tabloid that the wedding was off.
Oh.
Now, I couldn't find that either, though. So,
Interesting.
was she upset because of a lack of commitment? Did they have a fight and she shot him? If that was the case, 3 other people would have had to cover for her. But they did seem to be rather nonchalant having a drink when the cops showed up, and they called the cops 45 minutes after the gunshot.
Rip Van Winkle and the biographer are banging. But then we have poor Bill Bliss, who is the fifth wheel in this whole debacle.
What did they have to gain by either they weren't there when the murder happened, the death, and they came over and she convinced them, or they were there, she convinced them we'll all be held accountable. I don't know. Yeah. What's their motive for lying and backing her up, I guess?
Well, there are some other things. So in addition to that one bullet that passed through George's head, there were 2 other bullets found. 2 other bullet holes found. Bullet holes.
Wait.
I apologize.
Okay.
So the same gun, had been shot through the floor in the bedroom.
Nope.
When asked by the police, Lemon claimed that one was from an accident a few days prior when she was fooling around, quote unquote, with the gun, but no explanation was ever given for the other. So despite the fact that she said she was fooling around with the gun and there was no explanation for the second bullet hole, the police chief, William Parker, told the press he believed the extra bullet holes were of no significance. 0.
I'm sorry. How many bullet holes do these people have in their homes where it's like, oh yeah, nothing to see here,
Nothing
just
to
a
see
random
here, folks.
bullet hole. I'm not worried about that one. Like,
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Never have I ever lived in any house where there were just like random bullet holes, and it was like, this is fine, nothing to worry about. Like, I don't know how that got there. Like, no.
Yeah.
This is not a thing.
Lemon told the police that she was in the living room with the guests at the time of the shooting. But, and here we're going to get into some hearsay, but I think it's interesting, so I'm going to say it. Hearsay statements from Fred Crane, who was George's friend and colleague from Gone with the Wind, put Lemon either inside or in direct proximity to George's bedroom. According to Crane, who was not present, very important,
he
wasn't
wasn't
present.
there. Okay.
Bill Bliss, our friend Bill Bliss, told Maleficent Trent, I don't know who that is, a friend of his, I guess.
Maleficent Trent?
The name on this episode.
I'm sorry, I've been reading them so often I don't even think about it, but you're right.
I'm sorry, Maleficent, legal name, Trent.
Maleficent
Trent.
Yeah.
I love that.
What are we gonna
wow.
name? What are we gonna name this baby, honey? Maleficent.
Maleficent Trent. Who is that? I have to Google that. Is that?
I'm gonna ask the good people of Winnie Palmer. It's like, if you have any Maleficents recently, it's just a fresh baby.
God.
Maleficent. I'm screaming.
That's awesome. So apparently he told this
This
person,
is out of a comic book. This whole story is a comic book.
Apparently Bill Bliss told Maleficent Trent after the shot.
And then Peter Parker called and said, I have
went
some
sneaky,
questions. Yeah.
Peter Parker's way too normal. I'm sorry.
He
After
is, he
Maleficent Trent, I can't recover.
That might be the last crazy name. The shot rang out while Bliss was having a drink. that Leonora Lemon came downstairs and said, "Tell them I was down here. Tell them I was down here."
Oh.
Okay. Who now?
Again, I said he left his entire estate to Tony, but as we said, it was hers technically anyway, so that doesn't really surprise me. The evidence seal on the house was broken, apparently by Lemon, who absconded to New York, never to return, with over $4,000 in traveler's checks.
Yeah, like to break into a crime scene, like assuming, I'm sorry, if my fiance died tragically, there is no part of me that would either think to or want to be let me just let myself back into the house, like the scene of the crime where he died, and get some money. Like, ew, like, no, that's...
Listen, crime tape does not Liz Lemon keep out.
That is
okay?
true. She does have crazy eyes.
Makes the rules.
Leonora will not be stopped.
Yeah. So that's the Liz Lemon. Did she shoot him on purpose? Maybe accidentally.
Okay.
Now we're
Tell
gonna
I
go
don't know
back
that
to-
there's motive there. I
Tell
don't
him I
know
was
if I
down
see
here.
that.
No, I don't
I
know.
think it'd be a
I don't trust
crazy
her.
bitch.
That's for sure. But I don't know. Here's another theory, and this is a pretty strong one, I think.
Okay.
Was he murdered
Mm.
by the Manixes? So he was
Oh.
practically married to Tony Manix for most of the 50s. For like
Except
10 years
not.
in the 50s, except not. She lived
'Cause of
with
her
him
husband.
Because of her husband, Eddie, the fixer, right? She was married to Eddie Manix, an infamous fixer in Hollywood who built a career solving problems for MGM co-founder Louis B. Mayer. That was literally his job. Those problems included things like gambling, the mob, abortions, rape, death.
Not
There's
great.
a movie called Hail
Typical
Caesar.
Hollywood.
Yeah, typical Hollywood. Would have been very familiar, let's say, with shady ways to kill somebody. He grew up with Bugsy Siegel. And
Like you do.
had connections with Mickey Cohen, who were the two gangsters that we talked a whole lot about in the Black Dahlia
With the Black
episode.
Dahlia.
They literally ran Hollywood at that time with the fixers.
But why kill
So-
your leading man?
Well, he wasn't their leading man.
No, but I mean, but the Tony Manix's husband was a Hollywood fixer
Yeah.
for.
It's not that he fixed the problem for the studios. He probably fixed the problem for Tony.
That Tony was, so you're saying, Jen, that Tony was bitter that he broke up with her for Crazy Eyes Leonora
Yes.
Lemon and was maybe even going to marry her, question mark.
Correct.
And so Tony was like, if I can't have him, no one will.
It's
Here,
not
husband.
about the fact that they were in a
Fix him.
relationship. It's about the end of the relationship.
Yeah,
Okay. So
but that
In
boy, that's
those-
twisted though. If
It
if
is.
your husband kills
Well,
your lover,
it might not have been Eddie. So let me get to it.
all right.
Okay.
In those days, there was a heavy mafia influence in Hollywood, as we know,
Yep.
at
Yep.
certain studios, and it was actually very well known around the MGM lot that you could get someone to murder for $150.
What?
A murder. So,
That feels cheap.
right? Some people like killing, I guess.
God.
It was thought that Eddie had his first wife killed.
Oh.
She wanted a divorce. She was living out in Palm Springs. She was bitter that he was having affairs. She didn't like it. She said, give me a divorce. She then was in a tragic car accident and died.
Uh-oh.
There were like skid marks on the road that pointed to foul play.
Like she was run off the road or something. Ooh.
Staged murder.
Yes. So that was in 1937. So it's very, very much believed that Eddie had his first wife killed.
Okay.
So, as I said, Eddie supported the affair between Tony and George. So it wasn't about that. It was about the end of the affair that could have made this happen. Tony was absolutely inconsolable when Reeves left her for Lemon.
Called him 20 times a day.
Exactly. Reports of her, there are actually reports of Tony stealing George's pet schnauzer for revenge. Apparently, George had his dog in a car. It was a convertible, don't worry. But he was in a car. George went into a store, and the dog was gone when he came back. The dog apparently didn't like strangers, like would have barked up a storm if it had been a stranger, but Tony wouldn't have been a stranger. Because she lived with
What
him.
happened to the dog?
Disappeared.
He just disappeared.
Disappeared. There were accounts that friends of Tony's heard a dog barking in the background sometimes on phone calls, and she didn't have a dog. So
She stole that dog. She took him
I think she stole
Legally
that dog.
Blonde style. I'm taking the dog, asshole. Like,
so
Due to habeas corpus.
habeas corpus. So either Tony, Eddie did it for Tony because he doesn't like to see Tony upset, or Tony commissioned some of Eddie's guys with or without Eddie's knowledge. E.J. Fleming, who he wrote a book called The Fixers, details that George survived a series of suspicious accidents in the months before his death, which match Eddie's M.O.
What?
He and Arthur Weissman was George's manager, both believe this. Okay, so in the 3 months before his death, George was involved in 3 mysterious automobile mishaps.
uh-oh.
Now, George refused to believe that anyone had tampered with his car, but a mechanic believed that someone had drained his brake lines.
Okay, that's major.
What?
That is significant.
Yes. So he died in June. In April, he was in a car accident on the street he lived on. So he was in Benedict Canyon, literally right down the street. So yes, in April, he crashed into a cement pole and was partially ejected through the windshield.
Oh my
Holy
God.
shit. Now,
It
was
a
that
bad
due
accident.
but was that due to brake line
The
issues?
mechanic found that George's car had its brake fluid seemingly drained.
Yeah, no, that
Okay.
feels, that this is starting to feel
That's-
like a smoking gun.
There
Yeah.
we go. Okay.
Also,
So April, May, June, he would have broken up with Tony 4 months earlier because he was only with Liz for 6 months.
okay.
Yeah, got it. Okay.
In the film and theater business, Eddie Manix had access to a lot of people outside of the general public. For a price, these men could maneuver 2 trucks close together on the highway, or, because that was the other accident that happened, there were 2 trucks driving in the same direction as George and like sandwiched him in between. Oh my God. That was the other accident. Or they could drain brake fluid from someone's car.
Eesh.
Furthermore, he was sure that Manix also had access to someone who could arrange a murder too. Everybody knew that because, 100 and a
Was
half.
was
Casual.
George suspicious? The fact
No.
that his brake lines had been
George
drained, was he
didn't wanna-
suspicious?
he didn't want to believe it. It says he refused to believe that anyone had tampered with his car. He didn't want to
Oh,
believe
okay. Okay.
it. So about a month after the car incident, he began to receive death threats on his unlisted telephone line. Most of them came late at night, and there were sometimes 20 or more each day. Often,
Death threats.
the anonymous caller would simply hang up when Reeves answered. They said nothing, but after a few graphic and detailed threats, Reeves knew it was the same person.
Was it a woman?
Nervous after the near misses in his car, Reeves filed a report with the Beverly Hills Police Department and a complaint with the LA District Attorney's Office. He even went so far as to suggest a subject, his former lover, Tony Manix.
He listed that in the police report.
And a
here's
DA's
to you,
yeah.
Mrs. Robinson. Jesus loves you more than you will know.
Wow.
Yeah. So
I did not see this coming. I really
I know.
thought
I know.
our most likely suspect was
Was
Crazy
Liz-
Eyes,
was
but
Liz
no.
Lemon.
I thought it was
Not
Crazy
Liz
Liz
Lemon.
Lemon.
Yeah.
Norma Desmond, don't turn your back.
Don't turn
on
your
Don't
back.
turn your back on
She'll
Norma
push you down those
Desmond.
stairs. Wow. The
No
DA's
one
office,
ever leaves a star. Bang.
The DA's office investigated the complaint filed by Reeves, including his accusations of Tony's involvement, but soon discovered that both Reeves and Tony were receiving telephone threats and crank calls. Maybe. When
Wait.
that was disclosed, many people assumed that it was Eddie Manix who had instigated the calls through employees or hired thugs. But Tony also could have been lying. Thugs.
Yeah. She could have been like, oh, me
Oh,
too.
me too.
I was
Yeah.
getting death threats too. It was very scary.
And how easy is that to just like deflect into also like make yourself the victim? It's like
Yeah.
I am just as much
Just
a
as
victim.
scared.
I am
Did they
terrified.
pull?
The gun wasn't helpful at all because they didn't check to see if he had gunpowder on his hands, and it had recently been oiled and did not
No.
retain fingerprints.
It was an oily gun.
An oily gun, no fingerprints. The bedroom that this happened in had no windows, so the assassin would have had to have gotten past 4 people downstairs. Now, But is William Bliss's appearance suspicious?
Yes.
So, he's unknown to Reeves. He's at his house at 1 a.m. Could he have been used as a distraction while another man went upstairs to kill Reeves? And that was the reason Bliss was the one to go upstairs to find the body?
So Bliss was in on it?
Maybe he was the second man. Like he went upstairs because he had to make sure the other guy got out. And then he was like, oh no, he's dead.
But why? Oh, okay. Hold on.
Does that make sense?
Yes,
so he comes to the house and distracts everybody so another person can get upstairs. Or Robert Condon was the only person in that house. He could have, who knows what he was doing. The other two were out. That guy could have been lying in wait in a closet or something.
Like Jean Benet style.
Yeah, that's true. There was somebody in the house.
Already.
But then, like, if William Bliss, Bill to his friends, Bill Bliss, if he was a distraction, I don't like. But still, he would have had to stop everybody else from going upstairs. Like, no, you
Maybe
stay here.
did.
Just let me go. But
He
wouldn't
was the only
as
one
your
that went up, so we don't know.
I know, but
how
as the
that
girlfriend,
happened.
how come Liz Lemon didn't insist
I
on
don't
going
know.
up?
I don't know. Maybe he insisted that she didn't. No, don't. I don't want you to see what happened.
Well, or there could be someone in the house.
or
Like
there
maybe
could be
he
someone
used
in the
that
house.
as
Let
a-
me go check. Why was
Let me
he
go let
so-
them out. I mean, check and make
and-
sure no one's in the house.
And we were talking earlier, he
know.
doesn't know the room. He doesn't know the house. How was he so confident to run upstairs not knowing that maybe there was a murderer in the house? If he knew that it was a guy.
Like, it all has holes in it. Like, all the theories have holes in them.
Also, it's not a very large house. So assuming
Right.
there was an assassin up there, there's only, looking at this diagram, it looks like there is the house, it's not a split level, but it has split level characteristics. But this master suite, which also has like an ensuite bathroom, like this master bedroom is basically 2/3 of the top of the house. It's rather large. There's no windows in this room. There's this one staircase that seems to go up and down to the upper floors of the house. Like, I guess you could maybe hide in like the guest room, or you could have hidden in like the bathroom of the master suite. But it's like at some point you would need to leave this house.
Yeah.
And there's only so many ways in and out here, it seems. There's a garage door and a front door that are both on the front of the house. I don't think we know if it's like, is there a back door out of the kitchen?
Well, also,
say? Like,
if
Yeah,
someone
I
was
don't know.
hiding in wait, why didn't they kill him before? He'd been upstairs for like an hour by himself
Yeah,
before he
that's
came
true.
back down.
And
Why
you
didn't they
don't
do it then?
and if
I
the
don't know.
people downstairs were so noisy, you could probably tell there were other people in your
Right,
house.
right.
Like,
And they well, and that's the other thing too, that this whole thing with him dying by suicide doesn't feel like it makes a lot of sense, because most people don't do that when there is a party going on downstairs.
no, atypical. There are back doors. There are
Yes.
back doors on this house. I saw on a different diagram. Jen, you mentioned that there are no windows in the master bedroom, but there is, and I don't know if it's I think
like-
there's a tiny window, and I
Like
found
those
it,
porthole windows or something?
Yeah, like
It's
a
not-
teeny
it's-
tiny one.
but it's off, like it almost looks like it might be in the bathroom, not in
Yes.
the bedroom itself, but off the
It's
bathroom.
in the bathroom.
And
Yes.
because it's a split level house, it goes out onto the roof of the den, which is only a drop from like a first floor room.
Somebody could
So
go
if
on that
somebody was
room.
in the bedroom and shot him, they could have gone out this window in the bathroom. Like, it's big enough for a human to go
Oh, okay.
through.
It is.
And
Okay.
then gone off the back of the roof
That was
to
my thought,
avoid
too.
the people downstairs. Because it's like, it's interesting.
They
You
could have
see- it
climbed
looks
up
like-
that way too, even.
Potentially, but certainly to exit the house, if they didn't want to go, because it looks like to go downstairs, you still have to go through the main part of the house, and you can go
And they
out
were in the living
either. Yeah, like the living room has a door, and it looks like maybe, I'm assuming it's the kitchen has a back door, but you would still have to go past like those house guests. But if you went out this window and just sort of like slid off the edge of the roof, it's like, that's like what, maybe like a 9-foot drop, like.
Yeah. So, as we started this episode at 4:30 a.m., Tony called Phyllis Coates, who played Lois Lane in the first season of Adventures of Superman and said, the boy is dead. He's been
3.5 hours.
How could she have known?
Wait.
It wasn't out yet. There was no paper.
3.5 hours later, Tony
Calls
somehow
Phyllis.
knows and calls Phyllis.
Okay.
And
Well,
says he's been murdered.
Yep.
but I do wonder, like, maybe Liz Lemon called Tony, or maybe the author
they
called.
hated each other.
No.
But even like to tell them that
No.
our lover has died.
No,
No,
I don't think so. I think they absolutely hated each other. I don't think that
No.
would have been a thing. I think
No
her
part of-
Vesuvian temper would have kept her from doing that.
No part of me would ever call an ex and be like, you know what? Something terrible has happened to
true.
my lover now. Let me get on the horn with his ex. And
I would
make
never
sure
like
she knows. Like,
Call.
Yeah, you'd never
that's
call
fair.
his ex. Yeah.
Rock's ex
Yeah,
or
no.
something. Guess
You wouldn't.
what?
guess what?
But I do wonder, like, so I mean, but people knew who he was. The police
Sure.
might have started calling people that were his contacts. You know what I mean? Dead.
She said the boy is dead. He's been murdered.
Oh, that he's been murdered.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Murdered.
Yeah,
She
that's
said
what
he's
I said.
murdered.
He's been murdered.
Yeah, that's a lot.
All right. So here's some more interesting stuff. In 1983,
Oh,
Edward
jump ahead.
Lozzie, yes. In 1983, Edward Lozzie, I think that's how he was a publicist who was close to Tony Manix, told Extra and the LA Times years later that he was in the room when Tony was dying. She was apparently
Deathbed confession.
absolutely terrified of going to hell and confessed to a priest that she and Eddie had Reeves killed. Lozzie said that the priest told him not to tell anyone about the confession or
So the priest is like, it's like stroking the hand. It's like, hey, we're not going to talk about this.
we're not gonna talk about this because you in danger, girl.
Because now we all in danger,
We're all
girl.
in danger. But basically,
Okay.
so in 1983, the priest was like, don't say anything or you're basically going to be killed. Don't do it. So Lozzie only came forward after everyone that could hurt him was dead.
Wise man.
Yeah.
Wise man.
He was interviewed on Extra, which
He's like, everyone whose name has an alliteration behind it is dead. So I'm free to talk
Trent
about
is
this.
dead. Bill Bliss
Maleficent
is
Trent,
dead.
nowhere to be seen.
Carol Von Runkle is dead. They're all dead. All right.
Don't have a whimsical, pithy name. It's not going to end well for
Now
you.
the most whimsical we get is John Smith. So here we are. So he was interviewed on Extra, but a lot of people find that suspicious. But I found this
Yeah, I
thing.
mean, it's not like
which-
it's like that's like a current affair. Like it's
It
not
is.
really where you go to for your news.
It is.
Yeah.
But also, he also told the LA Times. But,
Okay.
So I found this thing literally yesterday as I was researching. There is a website called The Adventure Continues. Okay, so Jim Nolt, the owner of this website, is a retired Pennsylvania teacher. He just loves Superman. So this website is dedicated to George Reeves and Superman. Not his death, but like everything about
Oh,
it. Everything
he's just
about
like
the
a mega
show.
fan.
He's just a mega fan, right? So Jim Nolt, the owner of the site, wrote an open letter about Lozzie's appearance on Extra to like his fans and the followers of this website.
Okay.
Lozzie emailed him back on March 7th, 2000. Here is his response. Some of it, I didn't take the whole thing. Lozzie said, I have never profited from my story about Tony, which was told to both E! Entertainment Television, edited out, and Extra. It went right over E's head, so like they didn't use it. And Extra used it to promote a book, which I was unaware of. I was quite upset when my experience with Tony was meshed into a book promotion. I have still never read the book, nor any book about George Reeves or his demise. Certainly I have opinions, which like your readers say have no substance. What I will tell you is that I have my own reasons for waiting almost 20 years to reveal what Tony Manix told me. My experiences with her at home, including the odd Tuesday night prayer sessions to George, tears and all, and her vicious remarks about Leonora Lemon being with George, her gifts of George's clothes to me from the well-kept grooming closets in her house, she requested that I wear them. The stories she shared with me about their romance and problems are no secret to our circle at the time and to some of you. Besides my own reasons, which are not financial, I have no book, articles, or manuscript, and I have not profited at all from the 2 interviews I did for national television. I most certainly wanted to insert myself into the fray for academic reasons and have been itching to do so for many years. Yes, I never presented myself as the holder of any new theories. It's the same old one. Yes, George Reeves was murdered. Yes, Tony Manix was mean enough, connected enough, and had motive enough to make it happen. And yes, finally, she told me what she did. Was it the truth? Was she fooling with my head on her way out? Did she know Leonora would want to know this as what she did? Who knows? All I know is that what she told me soon before she died became an anchor around my neck for a long time. I'm just the messenger, and for me at this time, it was right to bring it to the record.
Mad about the boy.
What?
Prayer sessions to George on Tuesdays.
Made me wear his
her clothes. That's
That sounds like a woman riddled with
ooh.
like she was visited by the 3 ghosts and was like, I'm screwed.
Yeah.
In general, I am inclined to believe deathbed confessions.
The reason this one is taken like with a grain of salt is she did have Alzheimer's disease. However, as someone whose grandmother just passed away of dementia and very, if not Alzheimer's disease, real close to it, it's not the things from the past that they forget.
Correct.
That's true.
Yep.
It's the new things.
That's right.
They, my grandma would be like,
That's
ask
true.
my mom where the little one was, thinking I was still like a baby.
Right.
She would
Right.
ask
They
where my
remember birthday
granddad
parties from 50 years ago. And that's right.
It's degenerative, and it comes with a loss of like usually short-term memory is like one of the things that goes like you're saying, Jen, like you think you are like, oh, I have to get ready for school, and it's like you're 90, there's no school.
Yes.
Right.
And there's no consequence at that point. Like good, bad, right or wrong. It's like, well, why would you make it up if you're
at that point?
If you're on your way out.
Eddie's long gone, so it's not like he's got any of his goons hanging around.
Yeah, it's like there's nothing to
she's
gain.
dying, so.
There's nothing to gain by fabricating something there at the grand finale, as opposed to just like, you know what, I'm just going to say the thing and just.
And so she didn't say something like, "It's my fault George was dead," because that could imply
anything.
The breakup was bad.
No.
He felt guilty. But she said we had him murdered.
Said Eddie and I had Reeves murdered, killed.
Okay,
That's pretty straightforward.
It's pretty
she
straightforward.
remembered Eddie's name. She remembered Reeves' name. Like that's pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it seems
Okay, so Jen, let's assume the deathbed confession is true, and she said, okay, we had him killed. How did this go down, given like what we've discussed about like the ballistics and the other people in the house? Like, are we talking like, okay, it was a bullet, but then Olivia poked a hole in that theory and said, no, the trajectory is still weird and it was under him. Like, do we think there was someone like laying in wait in the room?
I think there was somebody laying in wait, and that Bill Bliss had something to do. I think Bill Bliss
And they
was
moved his
some
body
sort of
onto the
decoy.
bed.
Yes, and I think maybe they knocked him out
Okay.
because he has that bruise on his forehead. And then shot him to make it look like a suicide. Because that gun is like right between his feet. His feet were on the ground. The bullet casing. So it's like somebody knowing just enough about something.
Yeah.
But not doing everything. But also like Eddie's so powerful, it doesn't really matter.
No. Just enough for it to be plausible. Like just enough doubt. Like.
And Leonora Lemon didn't pursue anything.
She disappeared and went to New York. She took $4,000 and went to New York and was never heard
I wonder
from
if she
again.
knew. I wonder if she
may
knew.
have. Here's the thing. Tony knew everything about that house. She bought it.
That's true.
If she knew another way to get in.
And if he'd been
told them.
having the death threats and the break lines
She probably stole his dog.
cut.
Yeah, I think they tried to get rid of him a different way. Because
she might have been like, I'm out.
Eddie's
I'm going to get out of here.
Yeah. Eddie's MO was the car accidents. That was his MO.
Oh, well, see, that's interesting.
And he had 3 car accidents that didn't work.
And if you've tried to kill someone 3 times via like a plausible car accident and it's just like not working, you're like, okay, plan B. Like,
Okay, we're just gonna.
we got to get this done.
Yeah,
Ow.
and it's sad because it's obvious that George's death was never properly investigated.
No.
Again, like we've had before, police investigators never even bothered to take fingerprints at the scene. And people like Reeves's friend and manager, Arthur Weissman, believed they were pressured to make it an open and shut case.
Sure.
Sure they were.
We got Hollywood's Fixer going.
By the Manix and crew.
The Fixer is behind it. And the sad part is we'll never know for sure. Not only has it been forever, but
So
in
long.
1961, so he was murdered. I'm going to say it, murdered in 1959. In 1961, Reeves's body was exhumed from the Mountain View Cemetery and cremated.
Why?
By who?
Not his mother.
What?
He was
Not his mother?
Not his mother.
Oh, no, I don't like that at all. That feels, no. I don't like that at all. That's
So there's no evidence left behind. I will
how
say
convenient.
this, and it's, while George was like really frustrated, he still had like a huge impact on everybody. 35 million people regularly tuned in to Adventures of Superman.
That's
And
huge.
by the time he passed, there were 106 episodes of Superman at that point. He was the first person to ever play Superman on TV. And then in 1960, he was awarded a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame for his contributions to the TV industry.
Aw,
So that's nice.
that's nice.
But it's so sad.
Wow.
Oh, I found a picture of him with the schnauzer.
He loved that dog. And that dog
That was
loved
his baby.
no one but him. And
But him.
maybe
And then it
Tony
disappeared.
because she lived with him.
I'm a post-it. This is a nugget.
So cute.
Oh,
Yeah, so that's the story of George Reeves. And of course, there's the
Justice for George, though.
Justice
this is
for George.
I hate that this is. It sounds like at least officially unsolved.
Yeah.
As far as like they're like, oh, it's a suicide. It's like,
It's
well,
a suicide.
no.
Yeah, it
sounds
not.
like not actually. No, not at all. And and even if Tony like on her deathbed, it's like there's no recourse, and there's no recourse for
Nope.
for his family and his loved ones. George
No.
deserved better.
He deserved better. But I'm glad he got his star on the Walk of Fame, and I'm glad
Of
that we're
Fame.
still talking about him, even though it's a horrible reason we're talking about him. We're still talking about him. And I know, and we know, that he didn't want to just be Superman.
Yeah.
Right. He was so much more.
He was so much more than Superman. He did what he had to do to be an actor, and that's okay.
Yep.
There was more to his legacy and
Than a cape.
Yeah. And who knows what might have happened if, he had not been struck down by Norma Desmond.
Correct.
I'm just saying.
Allegedly, whatever. They're all dead. She did it.
She said she did. She confessed.
She
We're
said she
believing her
did.
confession.
At least arranged for it to happen. Yeah, it's like you might not have pulled the trigger, but
Right.
obliquely.
Yep.
Wow.
So there we go.
Well researched and well done, Jen.
Yes.
I knew absolutely
Sad.
nothing about this.
sad.
I knew generally like Superman curse, but I had no
Yeah.
idea about any of this.
Yeah.
So
I'd
much.
only heard the suicide part. I had not heard the.
Wow.
It's
The
one of
other.
the big, like unsolved, Hollywood
Yeah.
mysteries. But
Wow.
I really think that he was
Wow.
murdered.
For my next one, I have on our deck is the Scottish play and all of the
And all the lure and murders and, or
Origins
deaths or whatever. Yeah.
and curse things that may or may not have followed that.
Really quickly, I promise this is it. We do have episodes up on YouTube, the video on YouTube.
Exciting.
So if you want them without ads, you can join our Patreon.
Yay! See our smiling faces and our weird expressions. At least speaking for myself, I'm just
No,
a
for sure.
Muppet
And our
sometimes.
floozy bracelets, because I'm
And our
wearing them
floozy
today.
bracelets. I'm not
Yep.
wearing mine right now. I feel like I have so many things to add to our faux merch list, and just for this week's episode, I have Floozies Unleashed, and also it's better than cesspool money.
Perfect. It's absolutely perfect.
Excellent.
All right.
Well done, Jen.
We did it.
We'll see you next time.
All right. Bye.
And scene.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Wicked Stage Pod.
Follow us on Instagram and check out our Patreon for more exclusive content.
These deliciously wicked episodes drop every other Friday, so make sure you subscribe or follow and don't get left waiting in the wings.